Well, hello and welcome to the internet, welcome to YouTube, and welcome to my channel. It's me, Odio, and we are here today to have a spooktacular time and talk about Ghostbusters. And when you need a review for Ghostbusters, who are you going to call? This guy. All right, welcome back, everybody, and thanks so much for coming. Really appreciate it. We're here today to talk about Ghostbusters, the new movie Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. I saw this recently, and I got some thoughts about it. Now, I'll let you know right away. I'm an old school Ghostbusters fan. I saw the old ones a long time ago, the first two. I got my own little Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and I was a big fan of the cartoons back in the 90s, the Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters animated series. Me and my brother used to watch a lot of those with Saturday morning cartoons, so a lot of my knowledge comes from there. But I did love the movies. I own the first two. I own Afterlife as well, actually, and I'll probably end up getting this one. And those are all four Ghostbusters that I know about. And I really liked the Afterlife one, though, so I'm glad they did a continuation, and I'm happy to be reviewing Frozen Empire here today. So this movie starts off like it's back in 1904. And where are we? Oh, we're at the firehouse, because that's how old it is. And there's smoke everywhere, or fog or something. It looks like fire, and we're at a firehouse. So a bunch of firefighters come out. Everything makes sense so far. Then we see them getting carried by horses down to a building. But there's no fire. As a matter of fact, when they get to the door, it's quite the opposite. It's ice. That's what all the smoky looking stuff is. I guess it's really, really cold. So they basically take an axe to the door, and once they get in through the door, they see that everyone in the room in the hotel is frozen. It's like a banquet room, and there's like nobody alive in there. And as they go up, there is one person alive right at the back, and they're wearing this crazy armor with this metal face, and they're holding a circle, the ice globe of death, of frozen death, we're going to call it, because I don't really know. They don't really name it in that, but it's holding a demon, basically, it looks like. And so then that person seems to wake up, and all the bodies in the room just like shatter, and it's like, oh my god, Ghostbusters! And then, of course, cut to the future, and really like how this movie starts. One of my favorite things about Ghostbusters movie is the Ghostbusting. And this opens up with Ecto 1, the sirens going, the cars flying around, and you see Paul Rudd driving, and the whole family's back. I was going to say his wife, but the woman, Spengler's daughter there. And Finn Wolfhard's back. He's Trevor. He's 18 now, he says, so he's like an adult. And then our main girl, Phoebe, I loved her in the last movie, and she's back. She's sitting in the Ghostbuster gunner seat again, and they're chasing down a ghost right away. It's exciting. I love it. It's a good way to start the movie. It's like a giant long blue sewer rat, like sewer snake type thing. So they're just going through town, like dodging traffic, and eventually Phoebe goes out the side of the car. She's shooting at the ghost. It's awesome. I really like this scene. It's probably one of my favorite ones in the movie. And then they send out their little RC car to try to get it, but the snake goes too high. So then they actually they get a drone, and then the mother controls the drone, and they actually get the snake in the air. It's pretty cool, and they do a lot of collateral damage. With Phoebe hanging out the side and like shooting the proton pack everywhere. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, they do a lot of damage, and then they get called into the mayor's office. But in between there, we get some really cool retro commercials showing some old Ghostbusters things. I love this. It hasn't been this much damage since 1989, and they're referencing the Statue of Liberty going through the city. Anyway, it was great. I love the references, and I know the Easter eggs. I actually watched that movie pretty much when it came out. And anyway, they get called into the mayor's office. And speaking of those old movies, the mayor is Walter Pritchard, or it's William Atherton is back. And he's reprising his role back from the 80s. I think it's Walter Peck. Walter Peck, actually, that's who it is. And he used to be the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. He shut them down in like the first one, tried to shut the firehouse down. All the ghosts got out. Like, it was a big calamity. So, and then he's in there now. And now he's the mayor. He's like, oh, I've been waiting for this. I'm going to shut all you guys down so hard when I get the chance. And Phoebe's like, didn't you try that before to cause a big problem? He's like, that sounds like slander, young lady. So I guess they don't acknowledge that because there's no eyewitnesses and things. But it seemed like a lot of people would have seen the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or the Statue of Liberty walking through New York. So, anyways, they're basically getting threatened again by him, and they head on back to the firehouse, and he pretty much says, like, you can't have a 15-year-old be a Ghostbuster, right? Like, that's child labor, and they're not even paying her. So there's a lot of issues. So basically, Phoebe can't do it anymore. Even though she's probably the best Ghostbuster, she can't Ghostbust anymore. And she's pretty salty about it. I don't blame her. Like, most of this is happening because of her and her ingenuity and her resilience, trying to make sure that this got solved in the first movie for her grandfather. So, anyways, yeah, she's off the team, and they head on back to the firehouse, and they realize the container is pretty much full, the containment unit. They're not going to be able to fit a lot more ghosts in there. They get one in, and it takes a long time for the light to turn green. When it turns green, that means, like, green for go, so that's ready. And anyway, then we then cut on over to Ray's Dance and Podcast. Podcast from last movie, I like him. And Ray, obviously, from he's a classic character. And they're doing a podcast, or like a YouTube video. And Ray's like telling people to like and subscribe as Podcast is filming him. And they're bringing in people, and they're using the PKE meter to test if it's got a ghost in it or presence or not. So people are lining up with their items, and they test it. And like, it's really funny. Like, an old lady brings it up to watch, and when he's like, oh, there's no ghost in there, Podcast just shatters it with a hammer. He's like, the hammer gets the fuse. It's awesome. And then Phoebe kind of comes in to hang out with Podcast. He kind of tells her, yeah, I'm living in the basement here now. I told my parents I'm at space camp. They call. He kind of fakes it, goes off in the corner, and she's sort of wandering around the basement and realizes there's a whole bunch of Stay Puft Marshmallow Men there. And they're about the same size as My Little Doll was there, you know what I mean? Not a lot bigger than that, but they're much more sadistic. They're like always hurting each other, or like one of them was like putting his arm in like one of those old pencil sharpeners, I think, like, and they're always burying each other, shooting staple guns and stuff at each other. It's hilarious. I liked it. They're cute little things. I don't know what their purpose is in the story, not a whole lot, just to be cute, but I like them. They're fun. And anyway, when they're there, Ray. They also, like I said, they take those items and see with his PKE meter if they want it or not. So Kumail Nanjiani comes in. Love this guy. He's hilarious. I loved him in Grindr. He was like a lawyer opposite of Rob Lowe. Hilarious show if you've never seen it. But I like Kumail. He's funny in a lot of things. He comes on in, and he's basically playing a slacker who's selling his grandmother's old stuff to like the pawn shop. And as he's like, yeah, $30 for the whole lot. And as they're going through it, it's like, oh, I mean like $50. And then Ray's like, oh, so he actually has that Evil Ice Death Ball from the first scene. And so they go to check it out with the PKE meter. It destroys the PKE meter. The whole place starts to shake. Camille's cracking jokes the whole time, like, what, are we on top of the subway or something like that? Like, his character is clearly comic relief. I thought he was pretty funny. I don't think everyone's going to love his character, but I liked him. He made me smile, so it was good times. And then basically you see the cracks and the earthquake happens, and basically it's going right for the firehouse. And it gets there and damages the containment. And then Ray's like, okay, well, I'm gonna buy the whole lot off you. And Camille's like, great, grabs his money. I don't have time to make change. He's gone. And then he just kind of leaves, right? So from then on, then it actually goes back to the firehouse where Paul Rudd sees that there's damage to the containment, and they're all like kind of looking at it. And Finn, there's a there's a noise upstairs in the attic. He tells his mom, she's like, well, you're a grown up, you're 18, go deal with it. So he goes up to handle it. He's the ghost, and we see all the junk on the floor. And like I said, I love the old animated cartoon, so this is clearly in my mind going to be Slimer. But then it approaches the junk pile. The junk pile moves. I kind of for a minute thought, I'm like, looks like the mess or whatever, the junk pile from Fraggle Rock. But no, it opens up and it's Slimer, and like he of course slimes Trevor. Finn Wolfhard goes through the wall, and he's just like, oh my goodness, like, and he like even spits some out of his mouth. I love Slimer. He's hilarious, so I'm glad to see him back. And he was in the show. He kind of talked to them and stuff. He was like their friend. He talked to them with like Sim talk. And if you ever played The Sims, it was pretty interesting in the cartoon. He was almost like an extra member of the team at sometimes, right? So anyway, then they get called away to another ghost-busting job, which is cool. You see Ecto-1 fire up again, and they don't take Phoebe. She's not too happy, but they go without her. And they actually drive by Ray. He looks out the window all wistfully like, oh, they're ghost-busting. So Phoebe decides to go to the middle of the park at night and play chess by herself in New York. All right. So she gets there, and then as she's playing chess, one of the pieces starts kind of moving on its own. And of course, it's a ghost, right? She doesn't mind though. She keeps playing, and then this ghost appears. It's a girl, and she's burning. She's clearly a young girl around the same age as Phoebe. And she's like, boo. Phoebe's like, okay, and keeps playing. And the girl's like, aren't you scared? Like, no, because Phoebe has no friends and doesn't get to be a Ghostbuster anymore. And she does tell little dry jokes now and then. I love her jokes. Like, she tells one about, like, oh, can I help you with your bags? Someone said to the photon. And then the photon said, no, I'm traveling light. But anyway, they're really dry, but they're funny. I like them. She's a cool character, but she has no friends. So this ghost playing chess with her kind of bonds with her, becomes her friend, and she sort of asks her what's like being a ghost and things. Then it disappears, and I was like, all right. But it's an interesting little convo she has. Like, obviously, looking for friendship, and the ghost, obviously, I guess, lonely. The ghost was on fire and had like a one match in a box that she kept playing with. Then the engineers show up. Basically, there's this engineer guy shows up to the firehouse, checks out the containment with Winston. Pretty much says it's no good. And then he says, what are we going to do? And the engineer guy's like, don't they know? Then, of course, Winston takes him off to a new facility. Wow, with more containment. And that's where Lucky is. She's back. And her and that other guy are the engineer team for Winston. And they develop new things to catch ghosts and things like that. So they go down there and they realize, they get in there and they're going through the place. They have ghosts that are just out and about, but they're behind walls, it's kind of like a zoo or like an exhibit. And there's like a possessor ghost that possesses all the items in the room. It's so cool. It's really cool. There's like a really scary one behind the other wall with like a white, kind of skull face. Sort of remind me of I think Howl's Moving Castle. And they had a couple of other just random ones there, one that spit slime and stuff like that. It was pretty neat, and it's a whole Ghostbuster setup. You see them creating different things, and Trevor, Finn Wolfhard, him and Lucky get back together. They're chatting about basically the last time together, and Winston's showing them around, showing them the new packs, the new ideas they have, and he shows them the big new containment. And then he also shows them a device that can actually separate, they'll take cursed items and they can separate the ghost from the cursed item. So Ray, of course, is like, well, excellent. We're going to give them the ball. So he brings them the ice death ball, and he's like, yeah, can you guys separate whatever's going on in this? Because we had it out over there, and it caused quite a havoc, right? There was ice flying and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, we'll give that a try. So back at the firehouse, they're hanging out, and Paul Rudd tries to cheer up Phoebe by pretending that he's damaged the pack, but it's still fine, and she just kind of fixes it for him. And then they get a call. They got to go off ghostbusting again, so you hear Ecto 1 fire up. It's cool. And Phoebe can't go again. So this time she stays there, but the phone rings. Ooh. And she answers it and says, Ghostbusters, and it's like someone calling from a diner. They need help. So her and Podcast go and get an extra pack out, get their suits on, and Podcast is pumped. He's like, we're back together. We're ghostbusting. Yeah! And they head on down to the diner. And when they get down to the diner and go to bust the ghost, it's the fire girl. And she's like, oh, hi, how's it going? Who's the third wheel? And the Podcast's like, what are you doing? Shoot her. And then the fire girl starts to kind of leave. Phoebe shoots out the glass. There's like a whole scene, and they basically get separated. And after that, Phoebe just goes back to the firehouse, and Podcast goes on home. And when she goes home, the fire girl ghost shows up, and she's like, oh, did you want to come in? She's like, oh, to your ghost busting place where you destroy ghosts? Sure, I'd love to come in there. And then she does, though. She comes on in, they're chatting and whatever and hanging out, and they're like just bonding, being friends, just hanging out. And Phoebe really likes her, and Fire Girl seems like she's her friend, but also it seems like it's a bit sinister. And after they finish talking, she goes outside, and it is sinister. Like, she's in talks with some evil demon, like the whole world goes dark and cold. So whatever's in the ice ball is obviously talking to Fire Girl. And anyway, she's pretty much going to betray Phoebe in some way. But anyway, they get on out of there, and then Lucky and the engineer, they try to actually separate the the spirit from the evil ice ball or whatever. It doesn't go well. They can't get the spirit out. It starts freezing everything. Like, the power goes out. The possessor almost gets out. The demon with the scary white face tries to get out. It's a pretty cool scene, actually. And but the power comes back on, and they don't know what's going on. They don't know what to do with the ice ball. And then back at the firehouse again, Finn is going again, and he's trying to deal with Slimer a second time. So he's going back upstairs. He's got like a little trail of snacks, because Finn keeps trying to eat snacks, and there's no snacks, because Slimer keeps eating them, even though he can't swallow them. He chews them up and everything, and kind of ruins them. And he's got teeth. So he tries to catch him with a trap. Slimer gets away, slimes him again, and they have a pretty... it's a pretty cool scene again. I like Slimer. I like seeing him back, so he's interesting and stuff. He's good fun. at the laboratory there with the engineers, they're trying to show how that the ice orb works. So they actually put it up against the window with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Men, and it shows it kind of take control of them. Their eyes kind of glaze over, and they're zombies. And he says, I think that this orb is actually controlling them, right? So that seems to be what it does. And the possessor thing is really freaking out when that happens, and it actually breaks through the glass a little bit, and it gets out, and it's in Podcast's backpack. So then they're like, well, where did you get this? So then you cut to the engineers and Finn. They go to see Kumail. They knock on the door like, hey, we just want to ask you about the ball. He's like, no, I already spent that money. He's like, we don't want any refund. Boom, come on in. I'm selling everything in this house, anything you want. It's just my nan's place. You want that painting, whatever you like. So he's kind of showing them around, and they've got their PKE, the engineer guy does, and they're like, well, nothing in here seems too much. And he's like, well, actually, there is a secret back room. I'm not supposed to take anyone. And then the next scene, here we are in that secret back room, and they open it up, and they're calling it a sex dungeon because there's like chains hanging from the ceiling and stuff, and there's all these brass walls, and it's funny. And Camille's cracking some funny jokes there. I really like his character. This whole scene makes me smile, and he says that's where the orb came from. And then they put the PKE meter on him, and they realize, hey, wait a minute, it's going off on him. There's something special about him. So they say, you're gonna have to come with us. He's like, does this mean I'm possessed? So they go back to the firehouse. And Venkman, Bill Murray's back. Woohoo! And he's actually, it's great to see him. Love his character. He's funny. And he does, it's a super callback to the first movie. He's got the psychic thing on where he gives him the zap if he answers the questions wrong. And he basically just asks him questions, tries to make him mad. And he throws a pen, and it makes Kumail really angry. And when he gets angry, the fire behind them goes up and down. And they realize somehow he's controlling the fire, something's up with him. So they need to figure out what it is he is and how he's going to piece into the final fight here. Then another adventure takes place where Podcast, Ray, and Phoebe, they want to figure out what the ice orb is saying in the video because Podcast taped it when it was making those sounds next to the Stay Puft people. So they literally get an Ecto C, the old bike with the sidecar, and they travel off to a giant library where I don't think Ray is supposed to be because in the other movies he was there. And, he was pretty, not dastardly, but, he was one of the funner Ghostbusters. He got in trouble with the librarian there before. She's back, and she's angry to see him. She kind of chases him with an angry face. Nice callback. He also had the best time with Ghost. I'm pretty sure, I think he got, a blowjob in the first Ghostbusters or whatever, too. It was it was one of the funniest scenes ever. I was like, what? It's one of the classic Ghostbusters scenes that, of course, is super important to remember. Anyway, they all get on Ecto C and they head on over there to the library. They're not supposed to go in, but they get in. They run into Patton Oswalt, and there's just a big old story dump here where we realize that in that orb is Garaka, some evil ice demon from thousands of years ago who was trying to take over the world, and he had these. He had all these evil plans, pretty much. He was killing a lot of people, and they couldn't stop him. And then basically he got eventually stopped by these people. I think they were called Fire Masters. And these four, I think they called them roving or traveling Fire Masters. Anyway, they end up fighting him and stopping him. They used brass to imprison him and their fire to damage him, right? And that was how they caught him. And they put him in that orb all those years ago. And the orb stays at absolute zero. They bring that up a couple times. So it's always there where I guess they say nothing moves or nothing goes forward or backward. So also when they're in there, Patton tells him he actually has recordings of old recordings from New York, and he has something to do with that orb. And there's a recording there that they were saying in 1904, the people we all saw die at the beginning. Woohoo, callback. They were saying this chant. It was playing at the beginning. There was an old Victrola or whatever was playing, and a guy's hand was on it and it was frozen off. It was a pretty cool scene. But anyway, this is what they were saying. Was this sequence of words. So they basically were trying to listen to that, and all of a sudden the possessor demon comes up, grabs that, he doesn't want them to hear it, and he throws it in the garbage. Then he becomes the garbage, and he runs out as the garbage, and they they try to chase him. Actually, that's where Ray sees the scary librarian. But when they get out there, there it is. It's over there. The garbage bag is beneath the lion of the library, so you know what's coming here. The possessor is taking control of the lion, destroys the sound thing, which is it seems like to be his goal. He doesn't want the ice demon ball to be used. He doesn't want that person to come back, whatever's in there. But they have to fight the lion, and then Phoebe shows up, or Phoebe's there. She goes to Ecto-C, grabs her pack, blasts the lion in half, and in front of the library, just destroys it. Just like stones flying everywhere. She's going at it like that. It's awesome. And so then they have to run into Walter Peck again, the mayor. And this time he's like, you guys are done. Like, what are you doing? You can't just go to a library and destroy those lions. Winston was all upset. He's like, people love those lions. Do you know how hard it is to get kids to go to the library? Those lions attract kids to the library. You shouldn't have destroyed them. Of course, they had a great reason. But anyway, Walter Peck says, you're shut down. So he shuts down the firehouse, condemns it by the police. They try to go back there, of course, and they try to get their packs, but their packs are gone. He threatens to have them all melted down by the morning. But they get in there, and they know something bad's coming, so they get in, and they're trying to find the stuff. Paul Rudd says, I want to fight for this place. I don't want to leave. Winston says to Ray, too, because they're all arrested, he's like, why do you keep doing this? You're in your golden years. And Ray tells him, like, this is what I want to be doing in my golden years. And it's like, yeah, I hear you, man. Like, what? You can do whatever you want. Like, this is what he wants to do. So then they, at the firehouse, Paul Rudd says he wants to fight for it, and he just starts doing the lines to the song. When there's come on, like, we got to stay. Like, if there's something strange in the neighborhood, who are they going to call? It's got to be the Ghostbusters. And we're the Ghostbusters. I love it. So he's kind of like a motivational speaker at that point. Kamal Nanjiani is learning how to control his firepower. They have like a lighter, and they're showing these scenes of him like bending fire and stuff. It's pretty neat. I like it. He kind of had fire. I think he had something. He had that kind of power in something else. But yeah, it was pretty neat. I like his character. And then, of course, Phoebe is upset, after they get arrested. Paul Rudd's trying to talk to her through the door, but she's not in there. She's gone out hanging out with Fire Girl, the ghost again. And so they've gone off, and it like Fire Girl kind of nudges, sort of convinces her. So Phoebe decides to use the machine that can separate the soul from the body or whatever, like separate the ghost. She's going to use it on herself for like 2 minutes so she can go and hang out with that girl. Like, she's pretty hard up for friends. They really she needs some more friends, some other kid Ghostbusters. That's what they need up in here. So they go to the place, and she uses the machine, and it really reminded me of Casper, when like the dad becomes a ghost to hang out with the three uncles or whatever, or not to hang out, but he hangs out with the three uncles, like smashes his head into the floor and stuff. It's fun. I like it. But in this, so she just comes out and she kind of hangs out with the girl, and then the girl says, "Yeah, I was actually betraying you. Now you're going to be under the control of the ice guy that's in that ball, and his name is Garaka. That's the bad guy in this." Then Garaka takes control of Phoebe, gets her to sing those words, the ones that the possessor tried to stop at the library, and then he comes forth. Looks pretty scary. He's all like smoky and dark. He's like really tall. He's missing his horns though that he has in the old pictures, because it did say that they got ripped off. But yeah, he's pretty scary, which I like in the Ghostbusters. Like the is a different kind of guy. So you see him, he's scary. He's got these ice powers. It's interesting. If they really, really wanted to go for like the end of this trilogy, you want to go for something super scary? Bring in the Boogeyman from the cartoon. I still have nightmares. I watched that over 30 years ago. I still remember the Boogeyman coming in through the crack of the door when you were sleeping and stuff. Like, oh man, I was scared of that one. And he was a demon, not a ghost, so they had to like shoot him and go in the portal to actually fight him in his own realm. Like, oh. Anyways, it was terrifying. He had this big bulbous nose, white face, and it had the voice of Megatron, one of the other villains from my childhood. It was like a double villain ghost monster that could come through the closet. It was he was frightening. Bring him on in if you want to scare everyone for the next movie, if there's going to be one. But Garaka returns, and there's storm clouds, ice, cold comes everywhere. He actually goes to Camille's grandmother's sex dungeon and collects his horns. They're on the wall in there, which he wanted back, so he got them back for power or whatever. And then Phoebe and them all get back to the firehouse. It's pretty funny. Winston's like, how did he get back? And Phoebe's mom's like, it doesn't matter. Garaka's back now. We just have to deal with that. It's like, yeah, don't want to all be yelling at Phoebe right now. We have more important things to do. So everyone suits up. There's a lot of characters in this and a lot of people in suits. Janine even suits up, gets like a little thing. She suited up in the cartoon a couple of times too. There's like a genie episode. There's another one where everyone fell asleep, and she when she fell asleep, she dreamed of being a Ghostbuster. She fought off the Sandman. he was also really, really scary. He had a scary voice actor too. They did a really good job of that back in those. They should bring in some of those, like some of those guys. So Winston had brought extra packs and stuff, so they put them on. Everyone's kind of suited up, zipping up. And then the possessor, so the Lucky's on the roof. The girl, they're looking out for trouble, and they got Kumail in there. He's practicing with the fire to make sure he's good. So they see a tricycle, and they're like, a tricycle, and it's a little tricycle coming towards us. We're done. And they run. They run down. They're like, we're in trouble, guys. The tricycle's coming. And they actually are in trouble. That's the possessor. And he, possesses the door and, blows it open. And, all the ice starts coming in. And then the possessor goes and starts possessing a bunch of things up there. Really just annoying the Ghostbuster guys. And he gets up to where Finn is too. And he ends up possessing the proton pack, the gun. And the possessor ghost is trying to shoot them with it. Paul Rudd steps in to take the shot, and it ends up going another way because Kumail Nanjiani is now able to use the powers, and he switches the beam away, and he's able to stop it. And actually, I'm sorry, he's playing Nadeem in this. I should call him Nadeem. So Nadeem puts the beam away, and then he's able to stop it. And he's now confident he can control the power, so he's gonna go get ready to fight the demon. It's also pretty hilarious. After he blocks the beam or whatever, the possessor guy, the possessor demon, tries to get away as a pizza, and Slimer eats him. And then Finn's like, I know that guy. I know him. Slimer. I know him too, and he's awesome. And I like that he eats the other ghost. But then the ice, Garaka comes in, and he's just casting ice everywhere. He's got everyone pinned against the wall. He's shooting ice out of his mouth. He's super powered. Everyone's done for, basically. And he's coming in and taking over the entire firehouse. He's destroying the containment. All the other ghosts are getting out. It's pretty much a catastrophe all around. So then Phoebe bursts in with a pack, and she's shooting at the giant Garaka ice monster. And as she's doing that, she's getting closer and closer and hurting him, and she realizes that she's going to fail. And then she does fail. The ice guy actually stops her. But the fire girl who betrayed her earlier apologized a little bit in the basement, and then she comes back up now, and she's going to help them out. Because when Kumail tried to light fire and he tried to attack the ice demon took Garaka, he took the lighter and crushed it. They have no fire. They couldn't do anything. So she actually has one match left that keeps reappearing. She lights it, and that helps them out. That actually saves them because Kumail can now grab Nadeem. He grabs the fire and he starts blasting Garaka, the ice demon. And then they all kind of unfreeze a little bit. And then Phoebe's shooting the pack, and everyone comes over and starts helping her. They're holding the gun. The podcast is trying to help out too. A bunch of little Stay Puft Marshmallow Men are attacking him in the car. Pretty similar to the other one while they're trying to get he's trying to get the trap out and get it done. And as they're trying to trap him, they realize it's too big. They're not going to be able to stop him. And Ray, it's awesome. He makes a suggestion maybe we could use this. Does this give you the same idea I'm doing? And Venkman's like, let's just pretend that you're going to be right in whatever you say. So they actually go down and they use, as they're so Phoebe's holding that gun on them, and Nadeem is casting the fire, and they're trying to hold the demon in one place, and they go down, and they basically have to pull the lever on the old storage down, and they use that as a trap, because it's all cracked up top where all the ghosts came in. So they pull it down, and it becomes like a giant trap. They all have to pull on it together. They're all like, this is a great retirement, hey? And when it gets down, the lights come up, and then the demon gets sucked down in really slowly, ah! And then they save New York, and it's over. It's a pretty cool scene. It's great. There's lots of action. There's so many characters. It's like a 1,000 characters in a basket to get thrown at you. And they win the day. And then you actually see the fire girl. She gets to pass on to the next world. She thought that if she let the Garaka out, she would get to pass on to the other side. Phoebe told her she'd have to do that herself, and she was right. When she helped them with the fire, she gets to pass on. So that's all resolved. They head on out to the front of the building, and the mayor is mad at them, but everyone's cheering and clapping because they realize they just saved New York. And the mayor's like, oh, you guys have really done it now. And then the newspaper reporter comes over and is like, hey, do you have anything to say to all the people out there about the Ghostbusters? And he's like, yeah, I heard he's completely supporting them, right? And he's like, yes, of course I am. Yes. And they're all like, yeah. And you're going to support this family too and everything. So kind of ends with the music playing. Winston's out there and all the Ghostbusters there, the Spanglers. Then a ghost flies by. Uh-oh, who's going to call? Or who are you going to call? The Ghostbusters. So then you see Finn, he gets the keys to the car. His mom throws like, you can drive now. You're an adult. And they get in and they kind of, they go off to go ghostbusting again, which is great. Like I said, the Ecto 1 goes off a lot ghostbusting in this. And there's also an after credit scene where the possessor is not dead or destroyed or gone or whatever you want to call it or passed on. This guy's at a truck stop, goes up to use a payphone, and the truck becomes alive and just drives away. It's a pretty cool after credit scene. But yeah, overall, I had a really good time. I mean, it was an interesting movie, like a lot of different things going on, a couple different storylines happening. I thought it was fun, a lot of callbacks to the old ones, a lot of new storyline stuff happening with new characters. They brought back the old characters and things too, and I felt like everyone had like a little part to it. And at the very end, I mean, like that was the only time where I wish everyone would have had their own pack or something like that. But overall, it was really interesting and fun. I had a good time. I smiled when I was watching it, laughed a couple times, and yeah, I'd recommend it. It's a good movie to watch. I think you'll have a good time and you really enjoy it. Like I said, I watched it the other day, and like I guess it's something that it's not too long either. It doesn't overstay the welcome. It's under 2 hours, which is always great for a movie. But overall, I had a good time, and I'd recommend anyone to watch it. So thanks for your time. Really appreciate that. Like and subscribe, everyone, and stay out of trouble.